We're at the Vehicle Testing Centre here at Tremode. With me, the man whose job it will be to try and convince us all that we possibly need to have our cars tested more often. Behind us, in a minute, you'll see one of the tests that's going on. This is a standard procedure, isn't it, for when cars are brought into the island?
Yes, at the moment, the only tests we do on public vehicles is if they're brought to the island, they're over 3 years old, we do a one-off test before they can be registered. Under that age, no test. The other tests we do at the moment are on public service vehicles, so that's buses, taxis and heavy goods vehicles. Those are tested annually.
Now, you could advise me on this one, but everyone's always told me that bringing a car into the Isle of Man, the test is quite severe. I mean, it's probably harsher than just having an MOT in the UK, but after that, they're never seen again.
I think that's a fair comment. Yes, the test is a bit stricter because they are seen so regularly. So something like a disc brake, for example, they will check the manufacturer's tolerances, and if it's outside of those, the vehicle will fail and you'll need a new disc. Whereas in the UK, if that brake performed at a certain braking performance level and was below manufacturer's tolerances, you'd still get an MOT certificate. But don't forget, they're seeing them every year there, whereas we're seeing them once in a blue moon, if at all. Yeah.
And this is what we're here to talk about today. You put these proposals forward, I think quite cleverly, because you put sort of small, medium, large, kind of put it in that direction of, every year or every 5 years or every 10 years, to give people the option to comment on them. What's been the reaction so far?
Well, we've had a lot of comments. First of all, we had over 600 comments on the first day, which is remarkable. We're at over 1,000 now. Obviously, it's a topic that people are really interested in. The comments so far are fairly split between the "you must be joking, go and take one" to actually this is a very good idea and is long overdue because of the safety issues and the fact that people can obviously see vehicles on the roads which are in a fairly tatty looking condition and perhaps have some safety issues with them.
I think we need to look at the numbers, don't we, here? And can you point to how many accidents have been created because of a lack of attention to vehicles over the last few years?
Yep, this is all about road safety, and the department has all sorts of initiatives in terms of trying to reduce the number of accidents, which have a really appalling human cost sometimes, as well as quite a big economic cost. We've looked at vehicles that have been involved in fatal accidents. The reason for that is that we bring those vehicles to the test centre, and my guys here have a very careful look at those vehicles and do a report for the coroner to contribute to the inquest into those incidents. And obviously they sometimes find that there was a mechanical cause that contributed to or caused the accident, and that's in about 10% of vehicles.
Right. So, and you wouldn't be able to get rid of that completely, of course, but you could make significant inroads into that.
Yes, we would hope to be able to bring that down somewhat. We also, more anecdotally, have vehicles at roadside checks. Actually, 30% of the vehicles we pull in are defective in some way and won't pass a roadside check.
Yeah, but hang on, they're brought into one side. I've been on these things. They're brought in because clearly something is wrong with them in the first place.
Yes, that's why I've said that figure's a bit more anecdotal, but it does show there's quite a lot of vehicles out there. We've also looked at studies from around the world because there are other jurisdictions. Some of the United States of America does not have testing, and they've done some detailed studies on all accidents, found that vehicles between 9 and 12 years old, up to 25% of incidents have a mechanical aspect, and vehicles over 13-year-old, up to 50% of incidents do. So we think that we're not keen really on the idea of an annual test. We think that would be over the top. But we did want to sort of run it by the public and see what they would think of perhaps a 10-year test, perhaps a 5-year test, maybe a one-off test at 10 years or a one-off test at 15 years, and see what the reaction was to that sort of level of testing.
Well, the reaction I've heard from a lot of people is it's just like you setting off the number plates. It's going to be a way of getting more money coming into the coffers.
Well, I understand why people think that, but really I can assure people that isn't the case. I'm responsible for the Vehicle Test Centre at the moment, amongst other things, and what we try to do is ensure that the costs of running it meet the costs of the staff and the overheads of running the building. And obviously that's the test fee has to be pitched at an appropriate level, and we're about right now. So if this doesn't go ahead, it makes no difference to me financially at all, or the department at all. If it does go ahead, we would need to do some extra testing, and we would need a couple more examiners, depending on the level of testing, to accommodate that work. But we wouldn't make any profit out of that whatsoever. It would just be a straight cost recovery situation. What would happen, I think, is that some vehicles would need more maintenance than they've actually currently been getting, and you could argue that they should have been getting that already. And obviously that work we think would go to the local garages, and I've estimated that this would generate between 10 and 30 jobs in the private sector, and there'd be some extra jobs selling cars as well, because some people would obviously decide that a vehicle was beyond economic repair and perhaps change the vehicle for a new or second-hand car.
Okay, we're trying to sell this to the public, but you're going to sell it also to the MHKs. When do you see this going towards some decision that Tynwald has to back or not?
Right, well, the consultation's got a while to run. It's very open. We haven't made any prejudgments. I know people think we do. I wouldn't have recommended it to the Minister if I didn't think it had some merit and it didn't stack up financially for the island and bring benefit to the island. I've managed to convince him that that's the case, so he's allowed me to proceed with this consultation. We're both genuinely interested to hear what people say. The consultation runs to the end of January, when we'll do a report on what people have said to us. We're very interested to hear from people. We'll then decide whether to take a recommendation forward. That would go to Comyn, and if they were supportive, it would go on to Tynwald, and then obviously it would have to be subject to a vote in Tynwald. So it's far from a done deal, but we are very interested to see what people think, and I genuinely think there's an economic benefit, because the cost of accidents is currently between 25 and 40 million per year. If we can save 5% of those, it's at least 1.4 million. Whereas the 10-year test scenario will actually cost the public about £200,000 in test fees. So there's a net saving there to the island, as well as job creation, should this scheme be approved.